Pressing play in 1, 2, 3, play. Here we go. Oh, it's already... Okay, here we are. This is Unwanted Easter Eggs, a version of a reaction to, YouTube channel slash podcast slash whatever you want to call it. I have been trying to get this all to work, this setup, and to play the shows and get it to work, so much so that some of the candles that I have in the background here have actually gone from being full size to being tiny. Now, they're little thin candles, so they burn pretty quick anyway, but oh my god, it's been frustrating. I've almost finished my tea that I made, which I wasn't enjoying that much anyway. And oh my god. You have no idea. I even spent money to buy these or to watch these. I've streamed them. And I realized as I was trying to stream them that there's no way anyone is going to go back to buying things anymore in terms of TV shows. Because in order to buy the entire series, 8 seasons of Game of Thrones, it was $170 something, almost $180 Australian. And it's paused. It's just gone and paused. So I did all that for nothing. It's gone again. Oh, okay, it did it again. It's paused again. Now I know that's probably my internet connection. I'm streaming off my phone and stuff, so that's probably not the app's fault or anything, but oh my god, is that frustrating. So, Unwanted Easter Eggs is a concept idea that I had a long time ago. I'm sure it's not an original idea. I'm sure many other people have had the same, if not better ideas. And that idea was, back in the day of DVDs when they first came out, you'd have commentary tracks. And I thought, hey, you know what? Me and my mate are going to do a commentary track for a movie that no one has asked for. So it's Unwanted, and it was an Easter egg, which was back in the day, Easter eggs would be these weird things that you'd click on a certain place in the menu or something, and you'd find a feature that you didn't know and they didn't tell you about, like the hidden track at the end of an album. And so we watched a couple of movies, and in the first version of the Bobby Freakout Hour, I released those as sort of supplementary bonus stuff. If you go to CD Baby, I think it is, or even on YouTube, if you search the Bobby Freakout Hour alternative commentary or Unwanted Easter Egg, something like that, you'll still be able to find them. I can't even remember what movies we did. But we found trivia and stuff online, we commented, we talked, it was all great, and that was the inspiration. My thought for this is that I'm going to watch all of Game of Thrones. And because I've already seen the show a number of times, and I've already... just going to turn the volume down on the actual show. Because I've already seen the show, I've already listened to the audiobooks a number of times, I'm in the process of reading the books. I'm a very, 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 very slow reader, and so I'm halfway through this one. The question is, am I going to finish reading the books, or is George R.R. Martin going to finish writing the books? That's the question. Who's going to finish first? Normally it's not me. And my thought is that I'm going to watch this, and hopefully you can listen to this as a audio-only podcast just as much as a visual-orientated podcast, because obviously with YouTube copyright things and stuff, you can't just watch the show, but we'll see how we go. This is so frustrating watching this show again, knowing what happens, and knowing that this whole intro scene that sets up so much drama is practically useless and pointless. Oh my god. You see all these scary things, and it's in the shape of the circle and everything like that, and it's like scary, the White Walkers and stuff, and you know that little Arya can just jump over a bunch of them and stab one of them and it all goes away. Do I have to say spoilers? I feel like I shouldn't have to say spoilers. But yeah, it's absolutely insane. That's such a great setup. The fact that they start in the tunnel, in the wall, that's where the show starts. And it gives you this just absolutely terrifying... It already shows you this terrifying world where not only are they in the snow, but they're in the snow in a forest. and they're wearing nothing but furs and maybe some wool. So there's nothing... Like, I've got a merino thermal on here, which has been developed over hundreds of years, most likely, with different technologies and stuff. There's probably some synthetics in there as well. And I'm toasty warm. These guys would be covered in furs, the weight of which would be intense, and they'd still be freezing. And they'd have that... I don't know if you've ever been to the snow, but I've been a few times. Not a lot. I'm not a big snow person. I like the snow, love the snow, want to go there more often, but the coldness is just on everything. And even when you go inside, it then the snow and stuff melts off and it all becomes wet, and then it's just... It's a really, really strange existence. And I imagine it would be even stranger in this kind of context. And the fact that this poor young guy here, he has no evidence and can't prove any of this. Does he even know? How does he even know where he is? A child of the forest. The camera is right. So, like, right behind you, the camera is the screen I'm watching, my iPad. And so I'm going to probably do this a little bit to look around you. Hopefully that works. Hopefully that's a decently a good visual representation or something. Like, there's modern techniques and what's it called? Devices, of course. Hold on a second. There's modern techniques and devices and stuff for knowing your direction and maps and things like that nowadays. How traumatizing would that be? I thought I heard something, but it might have just been the TV. Now I really feel like I'm hearing things. No, it must have just been the TV. I don't know why I don't really need those on. Trying to find the directions and where you're going and all that kind of stuff in the snow like that in those days. Because even though this show is not historical, it's fantasy. It's based in history. George R.R. Martin took a lot of inspiration from, I think it's particularly English history. I should look that up and have that as a reference in the future. And so a lot of this, even though it is complete fantasy, there's a certain truth to aspects of it. And I feel like we can say, back in the day, back in medieval times, this kind of interaction in the snow, not necessarily with a White Walker, of course, but with scary things, terrible things, things that you just have no idea, like, what the hell is that? That would be scary. And you would have no GPS, no emergency beacon, no fire starter. You would literally have flint and steel to make fire, which I have made fire with flint and steel before, and it isn't easy. I'd much prefer a lighter. I mean, the simplicity of that's... Like, that is an amazing piece of technology, this Bic lighter. It is an amazing piece of technology. And I think if you lived in this kind of time, historically, fantasy, you would then greatly appreciate the ability that you could just go like that to get a fire going. And to see what this guy saw, and we know that what he saw is true, for him then to desert the Night's Watch, how did he know? How did he not see the guys in front of him? You know what I mean? It's one of those TV things. I think there's a certain of an unwritten rule when making TV and stuff like that, that if it's not on camera, it's not there, which means that people can just appear in front of the character, even though we go, well, wait a second, he was clearly right in front of the character. aspects of this life, which might be historically inaccurate, really appealed to me as a as an amateur bowman myself, with absolutely terrible improvised paracord string dampeners. I love the idea of having a archery range within your compound and within the area, and that's a thing to do, is to go out and shoot the bow. That's fantastic. But of course, these guys are practically nobility, so I don't feel like, to be honest. I'm going to put my other headphone on, just because I like the sound of my voice. It's quite an enjoyable feeling, being able to get up close to the microphone and talk like that. I should do an ASMR. ASMR reading. It'd just be something like that. every few minutes, just turn a page. Anyway, who makes the choice to grow their sideburns so long that they can pat them underneath, but then not grow the middle of their beard area? As someone who can't really grow the best beard, this is pretty normal for me, and it's about as good as it gets. If I let it grow longer, it just all builds up under here, and this doesn't thicken up at all. It's quite bad. I often wonder of the choices of beards sometimes. I saw a guy the other day with a pretty decent handlebar mustache, and I'm like, you chose that many, many years ago and are just sticking to it. That's just a I always have this hair kind of choice. It's not a daily or an ongoing choice. What do you do in this situation if you're the guy? Do you say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, I'm going to go back to the wall to save your life? Or do you say, no, guys, seriously, I saw it? Also, is it better to put the fur on the inside or the outside? If you've got a fur coat and you put the fur on the inside, it's not against your skin, but it's nice cushions and stuff. Whereas if you put that on the outside, it's just leather on you and then fur. I don't know. The obvious one would be, well, the animal has fur on the outside, so why not? But the animal's skin hasn't been turned into leather when it's on the animal, so I don't know. These broadswords, even though we know that they're Valerian steel and stuff, they just seem so impractical being that big. They just seem too big. It's the whole thing of how you can wield it. And obviously in this situation you want a big sword. When did they change from swords to axes in history? You know what I mean? Because there's hangmen, but then there's executioners who use axes. Whereas in this world, and potentially in history, they used swords. Now, is it foretelling that John is doing more of the inspirational talk to Bran than Robb is? And again, it's so funny looking at Bran and knowing how he ends up. Because the actor's growth spurt and facial changes becoming from a boy to a man are so different that you look at him now and you go, wow, you look nothing like what your future self is going to look like. Again, I'm still drawn to how heavy their outfits would be and how impractical. these would be very strong men and women. Even like you can't even tell me that it's the women wouldn't be strong because of their outfits and stuff in this day and age. They'd all be malnourished, of course, but the strength you would have to have just from walking around with all that weight, especially those cloaks and everything on the shoulders. Apparently the actors said that it was very heavy, and I'm sure they cut corners wherever they could. Now, I want to know, I'm a wannabe hunter. At one point, I would like to hunt animals. Maybe. It's unlikely to happen now that I think about it in terms of where my life's going and stuff, but how did they get that deer? Because that had maggots on it as well. Did they just find it out there and go, hey, we can use this? Or was it killed just like I don't like the idea that it was killed just for the show. And of course that's a fake. But look how big that is compared to, like, those direwolves really would have been huge when they grew up, given that most of them don't grow up. Or we don't see them grow up, at least. It's a direwolf. I don't remember the first time I heard about Game of Thrones or the first time I watched it. I remember, I think there was like 3, maybe 4 seasons were already out when I first watched it. And I just had a thought of those candles, those small candles. They're out now, so that's all right. Theon's such a little savage. I'm just going to kill a dog. Yeah, there was I think there was 3 or 4 seasons were out and stuff. But having Sean Bean as the lead, effectively, of the first season is such an interesting move because of his history. Like, I think the whole, like, Sean Bean always dies thing has become more of a after Game of Thrones. But I knew him as Trevelyan, I just bit my tongue. With all these years' experience of having a tongue in my mouth, you'd think I'd not be able to not bite it. He's a leading man, effectively. He was even though he died as 006. He So I've got 2 dogs, and I think of one of them as the runt of the litter because she's a little bit smaller and a little bit more aggressive and more affectionate. So I love runts of the litter. I think they're great because that little dog is one of the best things that ever happened to my life, and dare I say it, Ghost is one of the best things that ever happened to Jon Snow's life, because we know where he's going with that. I'm an anti-religion person. I do not like religion of any kind. I think they're all just as absurd as the others. And the thing I love about the religion in Game of Thrones is that almost all of the religions, according to what we read in the books and the show, have evidence that they're real. Like, they all sort of do stuff and have miracles happen on their behalf, especially like R'hllor, the Red Lady religion, or the religion of the Red Lady. Stuff happens. They misinterpret it for sure, but stuff happens. And then the drowned god of the Iron Isles. There's stuff that happens from that's real and that has real world consequences and effects, and so we're led to believe that it's real. And part of me is like, how could they all be real? Like, part of me thinks that in Game of Thrones world everything's real, and I find that very fascinating, very interesting. It'd be like saying that there literally is a Jesus and a Muhammad and a Jehovah and all the other ones. What's the Hindu one? Is that Muhammad? I don't know. And that Buddha's right, we get reincarnated. And then Jesus is right, we go to heaven. Like, if all of it, wouldn't it be amazing if they were all real? And it's whichever one. What if they're all real and it's whichever one you firmly believe in as you die is what you get? I don't know. Good old Winterfell. And this is another thing that's very interesting. Winterfell in itself would be so isolated in that the only way they get news is via a letter on a crow's leg. How would you... It amazes me how you could possibly feel like for instance, Robert's about to arrive at Winterfell to ask Ned to be the Hand of the King. They haven't seen each other in like 10 years. They grew up together, but they haven't seen each other in 10 years. And it's not like, for instance, my best mate that I've known since kinder, we text each other either every day or at the absolute most we go 24 hours. He's just had another child, so I'm not trying to harass him or anything, and I understand when he doesn't message me and stuff because he's kind of busy. But in this world, you go 10 years without seeing someone. You would change. Imagine who you were 10 years ago. I was not the same person. We changed so much. And I did like that. I find whenever you see somebody sharpening swords and things in TV and movies, it always looks kind of wrong and not quite right. I realised then that Ned's oiling his sword or wiping it, cleaning it, whatever, but he's wiping it and thinking, I took a relatively innocent man's life. Because Ned doesn't think... You can tell that Ned's just like, hey, I don't think deserting the walls really should be punishable by death, but at the same time, I get it. I have to do it, kind of thing. Candles. Who makes all these candles? Seriously. Who is the candle industry in this world has to be big money. It really does. Because all of those candles on all of those candelabras would go out over the course of one night with how long they spend in these places. And that's the wrong way to shave that part of the face. But anyway, is it? Oh, no, it's not. I haven't used my straight razor in a very long time. But you want to go up there, and then down there, and down there, down. Just trying to think. Down. Yeah. That bit where he touches his hair there and like sort of think, that felt a bit weird. I feel like the hairdresser barber kind of likes it. And was that our first sign of HBO-ness? Bit of nude boys, like half nude boys. And I'm pretty sure these came out in like 2000 or so, didn't they? Maybe a bit later. And that's CGI or not CGI. That would have been not Photoshop, green screen type thing. That just that looked very much of the era. They don't do too many of those. I like the way they use the dogs as a signal of time as well, because that dog's obviously now much bigger than it was back then. Don't tell a kid not to climb when you've got perfectly good climbing holds on the wall like that. Imagine if he'd promised. Imagine if he said, okay, Mum, and then he didn't do any more climbing. And he didn't see the Queen and her brother. Spoiler! No, you've definitely must have seen this before if you've... It's the thing... Touching on candles again, it's the industries involved in these worlds that I find fascinating. Who makes all these things? And obviously the castle, if you look at feudal system and the castle system, or whatever it's called, correctly, or not correctly, sorry, but fairly, and you think, well, if you are Ned Stark, your goal is to look after all these people, and he takes that responsibility pretty seriously, even though he is effectively royalty and his family act like royalty. At the same time, he's like, no, I want my people to be happy. I want all these people to be good, fed, sheltered, all that kind of stuff. Hodor on the left there. I've got a guitar pick in my hand, and I was just making a noise then, and I think the mic picked it up. That noise. I'll put that down then. Stop that. It is. When I say the word anarchy, what I mean is without rulers. So just no kings, no one telling us what to do, that kind of thing. That doesn't mean complete lawless stupidity, rioting, or anything like that. It means that we work out what we want and how we're going to do things amongst us, instead of someone telling us what to do. And part of the reason why I'm very much a anarchist in that regard is that I don't like this kind of stuff. Give Robert respect for winning the Battle of the Trident and the throne and overthrowing the Mad King. Absolutely. Leading people, being a leader and leading everyone like that, that's great. He deserves respect for that, no doubt. But this kind of absurdity seems absurd. There's something about that. Again, referencing my mate of 37 years. I do like that kind of thing of, even though he's the king, his best mate can crack a joke and go, well, you got fat, pretty much, which is what he's saying there. And I've run out of tea. This is very disappointing.
You'll be a soldier.
It's a good way to introduce a bunch of characters, isn't it? To have them all arrive somewhere and have other people talk about them. And again, because we know stuff, we know that it's very likely that we know that it's Cersei who killed Jon Arryn, which is kind of why they're there. Oh, pardon me. We know the history. We know why she's annoyed that they're doing that. Robert wants to go and pay his respects straight away. We know why he wants to do that. We know all this stuff. So rewatching like this is fantastic, because you get so much more, or you can read into it. Might not even be real. The actors may not have even been deliberately trying to put across that emotion, but we know that they're off to see Ned's sister, who was originally betrothed. Wait. Yeah, she was originally betrothed to Robert, and that the entire, or part of the whole Robert's rebellion had to do with the fact that he didn't get her anymore. I can't remember her name. Oh, man. That's frustrating that I can't remember her name now. I just wish Robert hadn't have gotten so drunk and miserable.
His sister had lived, but had been bound by blood. Well, it's not too late. I have a son, you have a daughter. We'll join our houses.
It's amazing when you think about it what that means. And I love the wigs of the early seasons as well. It's a nice sort of metaphor for the way Tyrion and Jaime's hair transitions from blonde wigs to natural dark brunette, almost black. And I've got a weird thing when it comes to nudity on TV. As much as... Is her name Rose? The character's name's Rose. Esme, I think, is the actor's name. As much as she is a very attractive lady, like, very attractive. My type, one of my types. We've all got a few types. I would class her as one of my types. So I'd be find her very attractive. I also think this is a realistic portrayal of what would be happening in this situation. Why would they put clothes on if they're having a intimate romp type situation? But I still find her nudity distracting in this scene. I'm not watching this for that. That's not why I'm watching. I don't care to see boobs. If I want boobs, I've got the whole internet at my disposal. This is not why I'm watching Game of Thrones. I'm not watching it for the boobs.
This is the first of many courses. I thought you might say that. But since we're short on time, come on, girls.
I also find prostitution to be a bit weird. I've got nothing against it. If that's what you want to do it. All for it. Legalise it. I think it should be absolutely legal. I just think there should be not restrictions, but laws around it to keep everyone safe, all that kind of stuff. But I'm all for it. Not for me, though. I'd spend the whole time just thinking you're faking it. I would want it to be real. I went to a strip club once. I'm 42 in a couple of weeks, and I went to a strip club once, and it felt weird the whole time. I was like, seriously? You guys are all pathetic. All these women are effectively lying to you, and you're just like, oh, this is great. It's like, anyway, it's a bit off topic. That's why this isn't a normal reaction video. This is a slightly. This is more of a, I'm going to talk the entire time through a TV show and annoy the hell out of you. If, of course, you haven't seen it before, but you should have seen it before. The Narrow Sea, as commonly known as the English Channel. She'd be in what, Spain? Somewhere like Spain, Portugal? Is that where we're... Or maybe a little bit further, even further, like Egypt? Who were the Dothraki meant to be? Are they... The 300... No, the 300 were Spartans. I don't know. And so we, like... Watching these two... I've got a table here. And under the table there's a footstool. And on that footstool is a dog. I did not know the dog was there. I thought she was in the bedroom with her sister asleep. So maybe that's what that noise was that I was hearing before, which I wasn't sure what it was. Maybe she was rearranging herself. Anyway, it's a good little spot for her because it's like it's off the ground and it's sheltered and it's secure. I imagine she feels quite safe in there. And again, I don't need to see this. Don't get me wrong. If I'm attracted to a woman, we're having an intimate moment, that is actually a really nice thing to do. That part of the breast, fantastic. It's great stuff. It is really great stuff. I can remember a few boobies right now that I lightly did. I did that to them. but those were not my sister. And it wasn't on Game of Thrones. It makes it all the weirder and stuff with the sisters, because that's the first bit of like incestuous stuff. Do we know did she like say brother or sister straight away then? I'm not sure. You do kind of feel for Amelia Clark that she agreed to a bit of nudity at the start of this and then said no more, which is fair enough. Because again, I just don't think it's necessary. This could be just like, but you don't need to show her boobs right there. Her face is what we need to be looking at. But yeah, to think that these two were born, well, she was born just as the whole thing was kicking off. Her parents were killed because her dad was a crazy person, and then they were whisked away. Doesn't even know what life is. He would be, what's his name? He's not Drogon's, obviously the dragon for I can't remember his name now. Again, that's disappointing. But they don't know their real life. Viserys, that's his name. He was what, a child? He's now 17 or something, I think, if we look at the books. But let's say he's 21, because that makes it a little bit less creepy. And he's being told his whole life, you're actually the king. You should be the king. And he has this plan, he gets frustrated. I understand why he gets frustrated, but he's a douche about it. But these two don't know. They know each other, and they know this weird life. They wouldn't, like... It kind of makes sense, her turn in Season 8. Or it absolutely makes sense, her turn in Season 8. I feel like the Season 8 storyline... The storyline was fine. It was the execution of it. They rushed it. They did the opposite of what George is doing with it. He's taking his sweet time. And this strangeness of the child bride being married off. It's very strange. I guess it's probably my modern mentality and thoughts and feelings.
Trust me, Your Grace. If he didn't like her, we'd know. It won't be long now. Soon you will cross the narrow sea and take back your father's throne. The people drink secret toasts to your health. They cry out for their true king.
I feel like I'd go insane just hearing people tell me stuff like that and say, "Oh, they want you back, and you'll go back and stuff." Because he's barely been there. He's barely been there. He spent a few years, or okay, if we say he's like anywhere between 17 and 22. Let's say he was pre-teen. And then she's being told that you're going to be a queen and that you're a princess, and you now have to go and be this savage man's queen in order for us to get home. It would just be so gut-wrenching every day. As I said before, in terms of anarchy and kings and rulers and stuff, I hate being told what to do. I've got a genuine issue with it. Like, I have to put a lot of effort in to make sure that I think about what I'm being told to do and how it actually benefits everything, and then doing it, as opposed to just, oh, do that, okay, do it. It's very frustrating. Look at those candles. How many candles are right there? And they're all dripping down. Does anyone clean that up? Do they care? What is the possibility or the likelihood of fire taking out these places? And it's interesting. I only just picked up on the juxtaposition of Daenerys not wanting to be Drogo's queen, and then Sansa wanting to be Joffrey's queen, and the fact that Daenerys doesn't want to, but it turns out that they do kind of love each other by the end of it, in a strange kind of Stockholm syndrome. And Sansa realizes how bad Joffrey is and becomes a prisoner. And I've just noticed here another candle. I am big fan of candles. Big fan. If you're ever cold, they won't heat up a room, but they will take the edge off the room if you have enough of them. So I imagine those areas and castles and stuff would benefit greatly from the small amount of heat that candles provide. That one's burning better than all of them. What does his name become again? I can't remember. He becomes it's Benjen Stark, but he becomes Iron Hand, Cold Hands, something like that. Goes on to save Samwell and Ginny. Is it Ginny? No, Ginny's from Harry Potter. Well, maybe it is Ginny. I don't know. I find it interesting trying to talk Jon Snow out of, unless you know that his real name is Aegon or Aegon. Christ, is he's? It's not Aragon. I can't remember what his real Targaryen name is, but if you don't know that, and he's like, I want to take the black, wouldn't you be like, yeah, well, that kind of makes sense. That's fair enough. I don't know, because I'm not a little person, or a midget, dwarf, whatever the right word is. I don't know if the writing of Tyrion in this show is as good as I think it is from their perspective. Because things like this seem to me to be very wise. If you're the Lannister dwarf, or you're the Stark bastard, you do just have to take it. And you have to use it and as he says here, I think, that seems brilliant to me. And the line, all dwarves are, that line, that seems like we know it's not true. There's many of things. I think Brad Williams is a fantastic example, comedian, small person comedian, dwarf comedian, whatever you want to call him. And he made the point of saying that his dad, when he was young, didn't hold back. His dad said, you're a dwarf. People are going to make fun of you for being a dwarf. So we're going to get you really good at making fun back and being tough. So he taught him, hey, I'm going to insult you with a joke, and then you insult me with a joke, blah, blah, blah. And so built up that strength. And it seems like that's the kind of same thing that the writing suggests that Tyrion's trying to point out, is that, yes, I am Dwarf Lannister. I am the Queen's brother. That's all I am. And he knows he's more than that, because he's got books, he's got all this, he's got smarts, he's got great wit, all that kind of stuff. And so that kind of take your thing, you take whatever it is and use it as armor against the world, seems to me to be a pretty good thing. So there's Benjen Stark. Eddard Stark. Lyanna Stark. Lyanna, that's her name. Lyanna Stark. And, goddamn, The oldest brother who was the one that was really going to marry Kat and take over the North. The one that died. If I remember correctly, he was burnt. Wasn't he burnt by the Mad King, him and Ned's dad?
How old are you? 13, Your Grace. How tall? Still growing. I think so, Your Grace. And haven't bled yet.
It's such an intimate question, and it feels like they play it so well as well, the way that Sansa just, her face drops. I feel like
Such a talent.
maybe Cersei is trying to be a dick, but I also feel like it's a fairly standard question of how old the child, when a child is. Like, have you had your period yet? Are you an adult? Like, are you... It just seems like an adult, or in this world, it seems like something that would just get talked about a bit. And maybe it's a city thing versus a country thing, because the Starks are the country town kind of thing. But yeah, to sit there and watch your husband cheating on you effectively, given that he's done that for his entire life.
I knew we might be neighbours, and I hope it's true. Yes, the king has honoured me with his offer. I'm sure we'll have a tournament to celebrate the new title, if you accept. Would be good to have you in the field. The competition has begun.
And again, we know who these guys are. We know the Kingslayer slayed the king and then sat on the throne. And we know Ned came in and said, "Get off the throne, that's Robert's." Like, it's the benefit of rewatching shows that we have these days, of being able to rewatch all these things. And isn't it great seeing Arya being a little tomboy and pissing off Sansa? Especially, we know the season 8, season 7, season 8, yeah, season 7. When do they get back together? 7? We know the eventual story of them getting back together. Now, this is another thing that I love about this world: the beds. A big-ish bed like that, let's just say that's a king-size bed because he's the king of Winterfell pretty much. It looks big. But the amount of pillows and blankets, and I can't imagine that would be the overly soft bed. I like a hard bed. I'd sleep on a futon and I do not want to change. I never want to get a normal bed again. I love my futon for some reason. It just... too much. I remember one time getting into a bed and I had to crawl to get out of it. It was so soft and squishy, and it just wasn't good. But that's, I like that. Again, bunch of candles. Gotta love the candles. But
Pardon, my lord and lady. A rider in the night from your sister.
surely he should have knocked and said, "I'm sorry, Your Grace, I have a letter, a rider in the night from the lady's sister," something like that, instead of coming into the room. But maybe this happens often, I don't know. But yeah, that kind of big bed with a lot of like wool blankets. I just put in another wool blanket on the bed here at home because it's gotten cold enough, and fantastic. Oh. Adding an extra layer of weight as well, so it's like a nice big weighted blanket. But I've now got a quilt, 2 wool blankets and a sheet. And I've got another wool blanket that I could add to it as well. I highly recommend buying a bunch of wool blankets. It's just fantastic. The colder it gets, you just put another one on top, another one on top, another one on top. But one of those big furs would be nice too, just to be so soft and furry. But the wool blankets are just, yeah, I love them.
If this news is true, and the Lannisters conspire against the throne, who but you can protect the king?
They murdered the last.
It is such a thing, isn't it? How do you tell the king that his wife and her family are trying to kill you, or are possibly going to kill you?
Your father and brother rode southwards.
They did.
King's demand.
It's amazing. What do you do? What do you do in this situation? How do you make that choice? Because that would just... Meanwhile, in the meantime, I was just checking some settings and noticed that I hadn't done something, and I'm annoyed by it. But that's all right. We can fix that later. And again, the significance of some of the stuff here, the eggs being the main one, and we know what they become. And then some people might say that we know where they are. Back in history as well, we know where the eggs came from. Some people even know who the eggs' parents were. And again, I am a prude. I'm sorry, but I am a bit of a prude. At a wedding, I don't want to see fucking and fighting and death. It's not my kind of wedding. Do whatever you want. I think the wedding should be exactly what the couple getting married wants. I don't think anyone else should really have an opinion or anything. But this kind of stuff doesn't do it for me. Maybe if I grew up in a different culture and didn't have a prudish mother, I'd find it more appealing. But that kind of stuff of orgies and things like that, it's not. To quote Jerry Seinfeld, I'm not an orgy guy. I'm not Jerry Seinfeld either for some of the questionable things he believes in. A lot of people that do reaction videos and stuff will dress up. I'm never going to dress up in Game of Thrones. Maybe I might put a blanket on or something. But I thought it would be good to get something to drink out of each time. And watching these guys with their horns, that I kind of like. Now, this is the thing here. Are these guys fighting people from their own clan? Did he just kill someone that, like, a week ago he went into battle with? It's definitely a cultural thing that I don't quite understand. And she does look very young and innocent there, doesn't she? Now, this fella, we know who Jorah Mormont is. We know where his dad is. I think it's his dad that's at the wall. And how he was in love with a woman on Bear Island and he tried to give her everything and she wasn't happy and then she went off with someone else and now he's...
I served your father for many years. God's be good, I hope to always serve the rightful king.
And it's sort of portrayed as a noble knight kind of thing, when it's actually a guy got exiled and he just went with his other option, but he's still making some money off. He's still making money by informing and stuff. It's a bit late. It's not that late. It feels a lot later for some reason, but this is not late. I would normally be awake at this kind of hour. So I should suck it up. The high-waisted pants, I don't fully understand. But I guess it protects the guts, potentially, from knife attacks. And what kind of eyeshadow is he wearing? Like, within context of the show. Where do they get their eyeshadow from? Like, what kind? Is it ash? Like, do they take ash from the fire and smudge it on their eyes? Because that would make sense. But some of those guys have got blue. It's all pigments and stuff. It's makeup of that kind of... pretty old, I believe. I have got you, horse. Do you like horse? Horse have white hair like you.
She's beautiful. So, Jorah, I don't know how to say thank you.
Should never give animals as gifts, though, of course. Imagine if that was your complaint about this show, that they treat animals badly. It's like, yeah, it's a fake show, and it's set in a medieval fantasy world that doesn't exist. What's his horse? Oh no, he's got a black one. I thought he got onto a blonde one as well, or a white. That it's so they do enough to make you dislike Viserys so much that when he dies, you just don't care. Even though he is kind of the rightful king by birth, and even though in theory he's the only family she has left, he's such an ass because he's so happy to just sell off his little sister. I mean, I don't speak to my sister that much, not because we've had a falling out, we're fine, but we just don't talk that often. We're just not that close. And I would hate the idea of selling her off to someone. That's, I don't know, maybe I'm not cut out to be a Targaryen. And how terrible is this? What a beautiful place. If you were getting married and you were madly in love with the person you were getting married with, and you'd never slept together before, of all the places to have your first time, this would be beautiful. Absolutely beautiful and romantic on a cliff at sunset. Oh, we've just gone riding our horses. Like, it's just so beautiful. But unfortunately, in this context, it is a child bride who is reluctant, which means that effectively, for the first few times that they have sex, until she very strangely has, again, the Stockholm Syndrome and comes round, she's being raped. It's a very interesting storyline on this one, on the Daenerys storyline of she's effectively raped a bunch of times after being sold off into sex slavery in a way. And she eventually has Stockholm Syndrome and falls in love with him. So maybe it's a survival mechanism. She's trying to make him be nicer and gentler and stuff like that, which is fair enough. You try and make the best of a terrible situation, I guess. I'm lucky enough never to have been in that situation, and I don't have any definitive opinion because I'm a bit grim because I'm pretty sure your wife and her family killed our adoptive father. It's even more in depth knowing that Robert and Ed grew up with Jon Arryn, hence why he was Hand of the King. Some of those look like genuine, like rock climbing holds. Like they've got a good hook where you can hook your hand in and everything. What happens to Bran's dog? Does he still? Oh my god, I can't remember what happens to Bran's dog. This is crazy. He would not, you got to assume based on his age that he has even less idea of what's going on than anyone else. Like, he probably knows roughly what sex is because in this day and age, or this world, it's probably a lot more. How many people were watching this show and they saw this and they were like, wait a second.
Stop.
Also, I'm a prude enough that as an actor, I would find that very weird and uncomfortable. To like fake thrust onto somebody. I don't know. I guess that's why a lot of actors end up in relationships with their co-stars and stuff. Because you got to fake it, and then you sort of enjoy it, and you get confused a bit, maybe.
Things I do for love.
He would have had to have thought at that stage of pushing him that you're done. It's going to be fine, because the likelihood of him surviving that fall is so minimal, and it just looks like a fall. Yeah, fantastic. Well, not fantastic, terrible, but in his mind, and it sets up everything. Anyway, that's episode 1. Unwanted Easter Eggs, Game of Thrones, Season 1, Episode 1. Thank you very much. I'm going to go make another tea and then record Season 2, or Episode 2, right back to back, straight away. And I hope you'll join me then.